Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Rahil Khokar from Code Movement Pakistan. So आज हम दोबारा हाजिर हैं अपने वीकली कोड जैम के साथ फ्रॉम कोड मूवमेंट पाकिस्तान टीम. तो आज का जो हमारा सेशन है दैट इज रिगार्डिंग Xamarin. It is actually an introduction to Xamarin program. तो .NET के वो डेवलपर्स जो मोबाइल एप्लीकेशंस डेवलप करने का शौक रखते हैं, so it will going to be a very fruitful session for them. They will get a feel of it, how they can jump into a mobile app development world using same C Sharp, using same Visual Studio environment, and all the bells and whistles .NET offers us. तो आज का सेशन जो है वो समी उस्मानी हमारे साथ कंडक्ट करेंगे. समी इज वर्किंग इन Zapcom, Karachi. He has been doing Xamarin mobile application development and web development for so many years now, and he's one of the gurus around. So without wasting much time, let's invite Sami. Assalamu alaikum, Sami. Can you hear me? आपको आवाज आ रही है?
Walaikum Assalam. Walaikum Assalam. Can you hear me correctly?
Yes, I can, loud and clear. So, Sami, स्टार्ट करते हैं आज का सेशन. आप अपनी
All
स्क्रीन
right.
शेयर करवा दें. ये आपकी स्क्रीन विजिबल है मुझे. All good? All set?
All right. All right. So,
Okay, I'll
Assalamu alaikum
take
everybody.
myself off from the stream now. Okay, thank you. You're up.
Thank you. All right. Assalamu alaikum everybody. My name is Mohammed Sami, and I've been working as a Xamarin developer for about 5 years now, professionally. And hello.
I think आपकी साइड पे
Hello.
लाइट चली गई थी. I can hear you now.
Yes. Sorry. It was just a break.
No
Sorry.
problem.
Sorry.
No problem.
So I was just starting with the presentation. I'm a Xamarin developer. I've been working with Xamarin.Forms for about 5 years now, professionally, and I've developed uh, more devel- uh, more applications for fintech industry, for normal users, for some private users. So here is my take on the introduction to Xamarin.Forms. How can a .NET developer or any sort of new developer can start with the Xamarin.Forms? So what is Xamarin.Forms? As we know that there is a platform for every developer who wants to develop applications for different uh, operating systems. So there we have Windows and Mac OS and Linux, and then with the new era of smartphones, we have operating systems such as Android and iOS. So to develop applications earlier, like in late 2000s and early 2010s, a developer has to develop applications for iOS and Android separately. So there came in the Xamarin.Forms. So what is it? It is a open source cross-platform UI framework from Microsoft, and it is the, you can say, go-to platform for all the developers there who want to use single and shared code base for for their applications to be developed and to be released on iOS and Android devices. So the first thing that comes in our mind is that how should we get started with it? So there are two ways, there are two possibilities. First is that you have a Visual Studio installed on your machine or not. So if you do not have Visual Studio installed, go to the go to any of your browser and install Visual Studio first. Or if you have already installed Visual Studio, then you can do one of these steps. Like, you can open the Visual Studio installer with, like, I have already installed Visual Studio, and I can open the Visual Studio installer to modify my installation. And here I can see that here I have selected the mobile development with .NET, but in case of yours, you may not have selected this. So select this and select other optional libraries or tools, and then you can start downloading it. So this is as simple as that. Either install Visual Studio from ground up, or if you have installed Visual Studio, then you can select this library from here. All right, so I have already done this, so I'll move on to the next step and open up my Visual Studio. So here you can see that I can select the Xamarin.Forms application from here. It is like loading all the project types I had. So here you can have this mobile application from Xamarin.Forms. So this is how you can get started with Xamarin.Forms. All right. So the next step is how Xamarin.Form works, or how initially the Xamarin like works from .NET technologies to work on both the iOS and Android side of things. So as I said earlier, it is built on top of .NET technologies, on top of the framework. So all the goods and all the functionality from .NET framework is built is there in these Xamarin Forms. Plus, we have this you can see as the demographic that either it is Android or either it is iOS. We have the base level kernel, the operating system, and then we have the mono platform, the mono framework, which is the backbone of Xamarin. Then the mono framework translates all the you can say the code we have written in Xamarin Forms, and then it translates to our respective Android and iOS application, and then it runs on the platform, either it is Android or iOS. So here, as we have discussed, that it has shared C sharp code, shared code base, and we have all the business logic and all the APIs and all the user interface written at one end, and we can use it on our applications. Now, starting with the boilerplate code, um, we can develop any kind of application with C sharp. Those who know how to code in C sharp, those who are already .NET developers. They will be having a good time with it because they already know how to write C sharp code, and they will just start from there with the boiler code. No new knowledge needed, nothing new needed. So the second concern people have that it is a cross-platform framework. How will it cope up with the performance? So you will get native performance because as we saw in the earlier demographic, we have this Xamarin Forms, and Xamarin Forms translates all the code into operating system level code. So we get native performance levels, native controls, native speeds of the application. It is open source and it is free. Earlier in its lifespan, it was paid, but after Microsoft acquired these Xamarin Forms, it is open source and it is free. So anybody can use with Visual Studio Community or Visual Studio other versions of Visual Studio. Anybody can download it. Anybody can use it for free. And if you are talented enough, you can also do something with its source code. So it is upon you. Uh, the next thing we have here, as we already mentioned, that we can develop applications for iOS, we can develop applications for Android, as well as we can develop applications for .NET framework, like on for Windows desktop and other platforms. And last, uh, before starting with the code, we have all the native and cross-platform integrations from across board. Like we have some iOS native controls and iOS native libraries or iOS native platform integrations. We do have those in our Xamarin.Forms platform. Either it is iOS or it is Android. So we'll get started with the boilerplate code. As I said earlier, We can create a new project here. We can set any kind of name here, like today we are streaming, so stream demo project. We can create this project, and here are three options in the newer versions of Visual Studio and Xamarin.Forms. We can have three types of applications, and we can develop applications for multiple options. Here I have Windows Universal Windows Platform disabled because I do not have installed those SDKs. If you want to develop these for this platform, you can install the SDKs for this platform. Otherwise, I have iOS and Android selected because I have those SDKs installed. And you can start with a blank application, with a tabbed application. Like usually we get tabs in the bottom of the application and some sort of screens on the top. And we can get a flyout application. Usually we see more of these type of applications where we have an hamburger icon on the top left of the application. We click it and there's a flyout page from where we can navigate into the application. So today we will be going with the flyout application option, and then it will try to create the project. So it is its first run, and depending upon your machine, depending upon your environment, it may take up to small time or take a little bit longer. So until it is working, we should keep in keep this in our mind that we have multiple options to run the application after it is like we build the application. Now we have to run the application. So we have multiple options. First option is that you can connect your phone with it, actual phone with it, and you can debug your application on your actual device. Other options are that you can create a Android emulator for this purpose, and you can run your application on the Android, uh, the emulator. And so it is all upon you. Today we are going with the Android version of this framework. As you can see here, the project is loaded and it is showing us the getting started, some sort of go-to points for us. So you can read it or you can just go and see the structure of the application here. So what is the structure of the application? First of all, as we are mentioning again and again that we have shared code base here, and we can write code separately for Android or iOS depending upon our needs. Usually, people always go for the first option, like writing the code in the shared code base and using it across iOS and Android devices. So, here you can see we have all the needed folders created for us beforehand. So, here we are using MVVM pattern. What is MVVM pattern? MVVM pattern is the model view model pattern. Why it is needed? So when we are developing an application, we have some sort of models for us to cater all the you know things to show in our application, to do stuff with the data. Then we have view models. In the view models, we are working on our logic, we are working on our navigation, we are working on everything related to the application's working. And then in the views, we have the pages, which we will be designing and showing it to the user. All right. So in the views, I starting with the views. We have some views created beforehand from the boilerplate code, and here you can see you have XAML uh, language for the development or the designing of the page. So what is XAML? XAML is a markup language from Microsoft, and it is somewhat similar with like HTML, but not quite similar. So getting started with it, it's simple. Uh, while I'm talking to you, I can run this application in the background and tell you something about it. So here is my device. I have mirrored it, and All right. So as soon as this is the first run of the application, so it will take a little bit time because it is uh, compiling and building all the projects for the first time. So it will take some time. Meanwhile, we can understand what XAML is and how we can develop, design the design of our application. So here you can see we have multiple options to design our layout. We have grid layout, we have stack layout in our content page. This page contains all our necessary things like the title. We can take the title from, it can be hard coded here, it can be saved in the view model. So here you can see it is saved in the view model, and then we can give a value for it. So here you can see that we have a XAML page and then a code behind for it. So why there is a code behind for it? So there is a page which we will be viewing the user, which will be we will be designing, and then there will be a code behind for it. Like there are some values which we just want to use, and it, I give you a scenario. For example, we are using maps in our application. So sometimes the map, we have to update some values on the map. We have to show a user some pinpoints on the map. So we can just get our values in the code behind and pinpoint those values from the code behind to the view. And why there is a view model? So view model there is to get our all the values from the, you can say, from the APIs, from the databases, from wherever we want. We can get those values here in the view model. We can manipulate those values, we can work on those values, and then we can set those values with the help of some bindings and some other base values. So here you can see we are inheriting base view model in our main view model. So what does this base view model is doing? This base view model is like a place, is a is like a place of base class where we are giving an option, giving all the, you can say, the default values for our application. Like we have to use title on all our pages, so we will be declaring the title value here, and then we are using the title variable to set some value, and then this title variable is binded in our main content page. So this is the basic idea of how we can use some base values, some default values which are set here, and then we can update those values in our view model. All right. So next step would be that design, how to design our application. There are multiple options. We have some options like grid. We have some options like stack layout.
Hi, Sami. I think your screen is frozen. I'm not sure. Can you try changing it? It's
All
going.
right. So it which screen is it is showing?
I'm seeing half of the presentation PowerPoint in the on the bottom, and then I can see about page.gml file that you're building from Visual Studio.
All right. It must be the build which is causing the delay. Uh,
Okay. I just
so
wanted to make
now
sure if your screen is really active.
is it updated right now? I have opened the
No,
emitter screen.
no. Can you stop sharing and start sharing again? Let's see if that works.
All right. Just give me a second. Stop sharing the screen and then resharing it. So is the screen updated?
Yes.
And now,
Yes, looks good. Thank you.
all right. Sorry for that part. That must
No problem.
be time. As I said earlier, that the first build of the application takes time and takes resources. So that must be the problem. So here you can see. we have our application running for the first time. And as you can see, we have this main grid layout. And then, so let me take both of these screens on the same page. All right. So here you can see we have the grid layout, and then we have some definition of rows and columns. You can define both rows and columns here. Here we only need rows. As you can see, the first row, the second row. First row is set to auto. It means that whatever it is there should be setting its height to auto. And second one is status.
It's stuck again. I'm still seeing about page.yaml file. That's
Um,
the only thing we can see on screen.
all right, so just give me a moment. All right, I think now it should not do something. All right, so probably everything is okay now. Um, so we were talking about the row definition. Here we have some options like auto and status. Auto means the item which is present in this grid position will adjust itself, its height by itself, and the status means that whatever it's left will be covered by the other row. So here we have two stack layouts for setting our values. One is normally declared here, which is just showing us the image of Xamarin logo. And you can see that we have vertical options fill and expand, we have horizontal options center. So all these values are somewhat similar to what we get in other options like on the websites and on other mobile development frameworks. So it will be quite similar, and few people would be familiar with these options. And then we have a scroll view, and inside that scroll view we have stack layout. This scroll view means that we have scrolling capabilities here, and then we have an stack layout here which is showing some text. So what does this mean? This means that we can develop and design any kind of UI we have here in our mind, and we can just put it down here and we can work with it. Next thing is that from Xamarin, in newer versions of Xamarin.Forms, we have hot reload options in our application. Just like that, if I remove this image, so you can see that it will be updated in some time. And you can see as I removed this line of image, the image from the application was removed. So this is like the starting point of developing applications. You can write whatever code you want in the code behind. You can write whatever logic you have in the view model, and the structure of the application is somewhat like this. I will go a little bit over what the structure is. So you have in the boilerplate, you can see that we have some folders preloaded. We have views, we have view models. So you can create more views here, you can create more view models here. As for the services, sometimes we are working with APIs and databases, so we can write those services here. We have models, so we can put these classes or models here. And then when we are ready with our application, there are some options like app.xaml. This is like a global variable place, global class, where we can define multiple options, multiple resources, multiple, you can say, styles for our application. Like here it's a primary, and we can see that this primary color is used in our application. And then, so this is our class for using multiple options, multiple resources, multiple variables for our designing of the application. And then this is app shell.xaml. It is like the same thing, but it is for the navigation and for the different multiple different things. Like we have here flyout pages. You can see this is about, this is browse, this is logout. All these are defined here. All right, so first is the flyout item. There are multiple flyout items, and you can see these are defined here, and we have multiple options for it, that when something is clicked, or what is the state of the click. Like I click this button, so what will happen, and when I click this button, what will happen. All the navigations and all the designs are defined here. We have three flyout options. These are here. Their item content template, what is this, and their routes are defined here. So all those things are defined in the app shell. Some global variables are defined in the app XAML class of the application, and other other resources are defined as per the uh, this layout. Then we'll move on to the Android version and the iOS version of the project. Here we have the main activities. Like in Android, we have the main activity, and in the iOS, we have app delegates and main class. So you can pretty much change anything and everything from here if you want to, because you can set some basic code, share code in the main project and use as it is, or you can go with the platform specific things and you can write it down here. You also can do is that you can define resources for each platform separately. So if you want high resolution icons in iOS but lower resolution for some reason, and lower resolution icons in Android, you can do it. You can do separate icons in both of these operating systems like iOS and Android, and you can change different values, such as in the Android side of things we have other libraries for other references. In the iOS we have other libraries and other references, and in the Android side of things we have Android manifest. Here you can change all the values here, you can use permissions here directly from, you can change everything from here. And as for the iOS side of things, you can change everything in the info playlist directly from here. It will take some time opening, but it surely will change everything from here. All right. So this is the basic introduction from where a .NET developer or any fresh developer can start with Xamarin.Forms. Any, you can say, any sort of development can be done here, and all, you can say, you just have to get the idea what you have to do. And if you are efficient in .NET framework, if you are like, you are working with the C sharp language, you can go and just create this boilerplate code and start with it and write anything you want, and it will work. So as I said, that on the first run it will take some time, but on the second run, and as for the designing side of things, you can just change things and it will reload itself in the runtime. So what are the next steps? I might start this again. Um, all right. So here we were earlier. We started with the boilerplate code. Now, what other things we need to look at? We can use all kind of .NET framework libraries here, like the sometimes people start developing applications for the website. They start with chat rooms, they start with like chatting groups, some sort of things. So they have SignalR from .NET side. They use SignalR. I'm just telling you a scenario what you can do with the .NET libraries in Xamarin.Forms. So you have SignalR option for the SignalR library for the chat options. And a developer who is proficient in web development, they can develop applications on the web, and they use SignalR for their purpose. But what about the mobile end of things? So the same library that person is using on the server, that those same libraries can be used on Xamarin.Forms. They can just utilize the same code on Xamarin.Forms, and they can develop applications just like any other application they were developing earlier. So all those kind of .NET framework libraries are available here, and everybody can use this with little to no knowledge about mobile development. All right. The next question that people are like, somebody would be asking themselves that what is the future of Xamarin Forms and what about its successor? In the recent history, there is a talk about the successor of Xamarin Forms. There is a successor coming from .NET itself, from Microsoft. It is also similar to Xamarin.Forms, but with major differences. So it is called the successor of Xamarin.Forms. It is called .NET MAUI. So people sometimes think that what will happen to Xamarin.Forms. Until now, Xamarin.Forms is there. Microsoft is supporting Xamarin.Forms. People are still learning Xamarin.Forms and developing applications with it. So there is nothing for about 1 or 2 years, but there is a little transition from Xamarin.Forms to the newer successor. And if you are fluent in Xamarin.Forms, if you are like you have learned Xamarin.Forms as a normal person or as a daily driver, then you can surely and easily move to its successor. There is no problem in it. And the next thing, where to get started or how you can start with Xamarin.Forms in details, in depth. These are some go-to links which you can go and start just learning about Xamarin.Forms and different libraries that are available to us.
Sami, you can
And
share these links in chat as well.
yes, I was going to do this.
Thank you.
So these are the links we can go to, and we can understand that what are the next step for us. I think this is merged into one, so I will share it one by one. Sorry for this. This is the first link, which is to get a better understanding of what is Xamarin. Like some people want to know that what is Xamarin, what is underneath it, like detailed understanding and somewhat different knowing, so they can go here and understand what is Xamarin.
Sami,
And
click on the comment section and then send the links. You are sending it in a wrong window, actually.
all right, all right,
The
comment
comments,
section.
right,
uh,
right, yeah,
all
here.
right, all right. So I will share the first one first, because it is what is Xamarin and how to understand the underlines of the uh, RK. I cannot type in here. Is there something different or?
What I can do is I can take your links from the private chat and paste myself. No problem. Please carry on.
All right. So the first link says that what is Xamarin and how to understand it, what is going underneath it, what are the platform level things, what are how it is connected to .NET, and um, like I can say one thing about it, that Xamarin uses .NET technologies underneath, and all the .NET goodies are there. And the second link is about how to get started, the hello world things, the tutorials, like how can you get started with this and how can you proceed to multiple applications at a time, or you can say a bigger project with it. So that's pretty much it from the introduction. And if there are any questions, so let me know.
Yeah, there is a question. I'll just pop it up on my screen. Can you see it now?
Yes, I watched so many videos on that, and every famous developer do Flutter is better than React Native and then Xamarin, so it comes last on top three. All right, it is true. It is true that Flutter is better and React Native is better, and Xamarin comes third. Xamarin is people initially when Xamarin was released. Xamarin was a paid thing, and Xamarin was a little slower than all other options. But as the time passed, was then open source and got free. So it is a mindset of people that go with the flow. This is what I can say right now. People say go with the flow. So there was already a following for React Native, and then when anybody started, I was also told that do not go with Xamarin because and it is an offering from Microsoft, and there are corporate things, and there are paid options, and so and forth. So I was like, no, because I knew Xamarin, I knew C Sharp as a language. It was my primary language. I was developing Windows Forms app and Windows web apps. So the go-to option to enter the mobile market was to use Xamarin. Um, as I said earlier in my presentation, that whoever is like have a career in .NET or starting with .NET can enter the mobile development with Xamarin, because in React or in Flutter you have to go with a new language or new environment, new framework. So first things first, if you are a .NET developer, you can easily move on to the mobile development world. But if you are starting new and want to touch all the .NET things and all the other things, then you must go to Flutter or React. It is solely upon you. But as you say that it comes third, it comes third because of earlier problems it had. With newer versions, with the last version of Xamarin.Forms release, there are too many things that are not problematic, or that are the applications are performance efficient, the applications are smaller in sizes, there are too many options to develop with. Like I said, you can just create the base of application, and then you can use that code on your web, on your mobile, wherever you want to go. As well as you can go with development. One might say that Flutter is doing the same, but sometimes, or like now, I don't know. It is me. I'm not saying about everybody. It is me who don't know that web applications or corporate level applications are being developed on Dart. So it, it will be a lot more easier for corporations to develop same with same skill set. They can develop web applications, and they can develop the mobile applications. So my answer will be no problem. Wherever it is there, you can start with it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sami. Uh, Most of the times, what happens is that a developer is working on a .NET project, for example, and client comes up and asks to develop a very miniature sort of m- mobile application version of the same application as well. It's a mobile interface rather. So in that particular scenario, that that developer won't step into the world of Kotlin or iOS or native development, because he will try to save time and give uh, exactly same functionality without spending so much time in learning during the project, and they'll just adopt Xamarin and boom, your app is up. So in such
Yes,
scenarios, it's very handy. No.
yes, that was initially my thought after reading the question. because corporations, big corporations are like just develop things as soon as they can, as easy as they can, and as money saving they can be. So a
Yeah,
developer who
because
knows .NET,
yeah, in such scenarios, the ROI, return of investment, is great. You cannot wait your .NET developer to step into Kotlin or Java or something else in order to sorry, in order to go through that learning curve and then develop that app while your project is uh, active on the timeline. So
yes,
have the C sharp skill set, you have Visual Studio, you know everything. So, and one plus point I think is that there could be a lot of code that could be reusable because it's all C sharp.
yes, yes. As
So
I said, all the .NET libraries are there and they can be reused here. The only thing you have to do is to test on it on a mobile device. That's it. You don't have to rewrite the logic. You don't have to re-understand all the things you have to do. You just have to take the website code or the logic you wrote for the website or for the any other thing. You can just take that code or make them a library. Make those projects a library. Then utilize them in your project, mobile project.
yeah, so that is
So
a
it
double time
is
saver. One is the
yes,
learning curve that we were talking about. Second is the copy paste of the code. It's reusable.
yes, yes, and then
Yeah.
you can develop applications for all sort of platforms, for Mac OS, for iOS, for Linux, for with the new options from .NET Core, you can develop your applications even for Linux. And you are developing always for the mobile applications and for the Windows desktop applications. So it is great for a developer to just yeah like create a new project and it's done. So that's why Xamarin is like option. And as uh, every new version of Xamarin, there is an option of better performance, better security, better user UI. So that's the best of both worlds.
Thank you for detailed answer. We have another question from Fasi. Should be on our screen now.
As we all know that UI of an app plays a vital role, but UI development is time consuming and not mobile friendly, then why should you prefer Xamarin? All right, designing is yes, time consuming thing, and sometimes we do not get mobile friendly UIs. Also in Xamarin, there are in earlier versions of Xamarin.Forms there was this problem faced by the developers all the time. But as the newer versions came, and as I said, most of the XAML's properties are just like your properties on HTML and CSS. You can center align things. You can get the grid and do its work for you. You can adjust the height and width of the rows and columns. So it, like I said, in the row definition, for example, if you want to place three controls on a screen, and you want all three controls to be like fit the height of the screen, irrespective of the height of the screen on any device, you can just set all the three rows to auto or to static. Then it will auto adjust itself, and it will be normal for any user. I was working on an application earlier in my career. They were like they supported mobile smartphones for Android from version 4 up towards version 11. So there were many types of screens with standard resolutions and with resolutions that are like out of this world. So we also came up with the we faced this problem that the UIs were not mobile friendly, the UI was problematic and all those things. But with the help of basic knowledge of stack layout and grid layout, there are more options today that they like absolute layout or some other options. But you can just use your CSS skills here. I'm talking about the web developers. They can use their CSS skills and go on with the UI of for any kind of device for any resolution they want. And if you are like, I'm not a web developer and I do not know anything about CSS or aligning things, then you can surely do it in the runtime, like you are developing applications, and you do not have to restart the application every time you design change or you change something in the design. You can do it just by hot reloading the application, and there is that thing. It would not be time consuming, it would be mobile friendly. So you can do anything with Xamarin. That's why you can or you should prefer Xamarin.Forms. I think I have answered the question.
Right. Thank you. Thank you once again for detailed answers, Sami. Actually, there's a mindset that if something is going famous around in the market, so let's learn it and ditch everything else. So I think that is not the right mentality when working in the technology world. Because if you uh, take a good look at what sort of applications and what sort of companies have been using Xamarin and what sort of application has been developed in Xamarin, so there are amazing organizations and amazing apps that are already using Xamarin, like
Mm,
UPS, Alaska Airlines, World Bank. These guys are using Xamarin and Xamarin apps. So I think if you know it and if you can work on it, I mean, if you can do good software development, so any framework that you're using would eventually give you good results. But if you learn something more famous, but you do not know the engineering concepts of it, so I think you will gonna doom the project. What do you say,
yes,
Sami?
yes, that's what I was saying. Because when you are in working in an like international multinational company, you are said that we have this website, we have this working website, and you have to copy this website to the mobile. So developers are like scratching their heads what to do now. So the basic or the fastest way to do this is to get an option like Xamarin.Forms or something else. Earlier, there was no option other than Xamarin.Forms. I'm talking about late 2000s and early 2010s. There was only Xamarin.Forms, like a big name, because it was supported earlier. It was supported by Microsoft, and then it was owned by Microsoft. So people were like, they have trust on Microsoft, so they were using. Earlier, it was paid, and then it got open source and free. So it was a lot easier for every .NET developer or anybody who was going to learn .NET, because if I have .NET technology expertise, I can move to Xamarin.Forms. If I have Xamarin.Forms expertise, I can move to server side development or who knows what kind of development. So it is like the best of both worlds. And as you said that whichever thing is getting famous, people tend to move behind it. This is the problem, and I also faced this problem when I was starting with Xamarin.Forms. People tend to say that at that time there was some sort of Cordova framework and there was React Native starting at that time, so everybody was like move on with it because React Native, its UI, its development language was JavaScript, and there were things similar from web development. People were developing applications for web and using those code in the React. But the people who are new, they can do this or they can go for the learning curve. But people who are in the industry sitting in front of a project which is still running, and you cannot spare some time to stop and go on with the development of the mobile application and hire people or make people learn something new. So it is obviously a good option for anybody to start uh, with their basic skills and just move on. And even today, I would suggest everybody to look at it and take a look at the Xamarin.Forms successor, which will be like the mainstream product from Microsoft from next year. So, and it will be. I pray that it gets the name it should get, because Xamarin.Forms is like everybody hates it. I don't know why, but this is the case.
Actually, there is a fashion in the industry to hate Microsoft products, so it comes under
I
that scenario, I
I,
think.
I was I was abstaining myself from saying that.
That is okay. All right. Thank you, Samin. Thank you so much for taking out time tonight for the
And
community.
all right, thank you everybody for
Uh,
bearing with me.
no problem. You did a wonderful job. Thank you, audience. और मिलते हैं next Thursday को 8 बजे इंशाल्लाह with another episode of Code Movement Weekly Jam. So till then,
Inshallah.
stay safe. Allah Hafiz.
Allah.